Hello and welcome to Leviathan News. Today is May 31st, and today we got the Premia team on, DK3 Anon and VE Cozy, to come on and talk about the recent white paper that they just put out about some upcoming changes to Premia. So welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yep, thanks for having us, guys.
So I've been reading over this white paper for the past few days, and it seems pretty awesome, actually. If you're like the way that you're able to combine a bunch of new ideas that have been put out over the, I guess, last few months in DeFi, and combine them into this new and improved options protocol. So maybe you could run through like what like Premia V3 is and how it's going to be an upgrade from V2.
Yeah, so I'll kick it off.
Cool.
My name's DK. I run operations and legal at Premia. Just a little bit of background on myself. I've been in DeFi now for a little over 2 years, and then previously I was 10 years in traditional finance. But yeah, so Premia V3, it's something that we've been working on since we launched V2 in November of 2021. So it's been a long time in the making. We released the white paper earlier this year. It kind of goes into all of the different aspects of the new protocol, the new platform that we're going to be putting out. So to give you a little bit of history, Premia V1 was peer-to-peer. We figured we were probably a little bit too early for that. No one really knows how to price options on chain. Plus, it was before like a lot of the run-up in gases and gas prices, and so it wasn't economically feasible to continuously reprice options. Layer 2's come along, and V2 we moved to peer-to-pool. And that was a lot more successful than our peer-to-peer product. But however, I still kind of considered it a beta product, even though we've launched, we've issued about 350 million in options at this point. So V3, we've added a lot of new primitives. So in terms of the biggest kind of downfall, I wouldn't say downfall, but the biggest blocker for larger adoption within our platform right now is that peer-to-pool model. We play as a pricing, essentially like a pricing broker between LPs and traders. However, if you're an LP, that you can't really parameterize like what exact options you want to write. So if you only want to write ETH calls within this strike and only 30 days out, you can't do that in V2. You have to deposit into LP, and then you have to underwrite the full risk book. So if someone wants to come in and wants to buy a 30-day option at way out of the money at, let's say, like 3,000 ETH price, you have to write that, right? And then your collateral gets locked up for that amount of time. And maybe they at the time vol was low, the prices was relatively cheap, and then vol has a huge move, and the next thing you know, there's 2 months left, and ETH is trading at $2,800, right? So that the price of that option has exponentially went up, and so you're kind of stuck in this position that if it continues to go up, then you're kind of going to get your face melted. So that was the biggest change, is that full parameterization. Now we also have what Uniswap kind of brought in with range orders, so that you can set that, okay, I only want to underwrite within these different thresholds. We're going to have margin. Margin is going to be a post. It's going to be like a phase 2. So phase 1. Actually, we can give you guys the exclusive if you want. We have announced this publicly, but
Yes. Yeah.
So our trading competition is going to begin the week of June 12th. So it's in 2 weeks from now. So it's coming up pretty quick. It's testnet trading competition. It's going to be all of our phase 1 release, all the things that's in our phase 1 release. So we'll have those range orders at the kind of different layers. So we have the base layer, which you can deposit liquidity to, and we have permissionless pool deployment, right? So we'll be the first options platform that has permissionless pool deployment. All you need is to bring your own oracle. So obviously we support Chainlink, we support Uniswap TWAP, and then if either you come to us and you want an adapter for another oracle provider or build it yourself, you can deploy your own pools. So sky's the limit, right? So GMX tokens, if there's no Chainlink feed, you can do whatever the new meme coin is of the week. We can underwrite options in any regard. Any questions thus far on that?
Yeah, so the basic understanding that I have is that by using a concentrated liquidity order in Uniswap, you're essentially creating like a if it's like
Short
one
call.
it's like it's a straddle, right? So you're essentially creating the straddle. So if you're taking the other side of that, you can turn it into like an option, right? So, but how do you take what is essentially straddle and then turn it into puts and calls. And especially when you have multiple orders over like, because the way that I understand Premia V3 is, all these different LPs can create all their different ranges, right? And so you're going to get a curve, which a concentrated curve, right? So there might be more liquidity in one place and there might be more liquidity in the others. I guess my question would be is like, how do you split off those individual options? So the like long calls, long puts, away from those concentrated liquidity positions. And then I have one more question after that, but we can start there.
Yeah, so the way that we have it built in V3 is actually every single strike and expiration for every pair is its own pool, right? So let's say I want to create a June, end of June expiration, ETH 25 strike. It's going to be a call, and it's going to be ETH to USD or ETH to USDC. And so that's where the Oracle will come in. It's because you have to know the closing price. We do that. Excuse me, those are European settled. So each pool is its own product per se, right? And that's how we kind of segment it all out. We don't kind of combine it all into one like we were doing in V2. And then within that pool, that concentrated range can be kind of formed together, right? So if you only want to underwrite within these certain ranges, you're only willing to sell it at this price, great. And then maybe another person comes in, they're willing to sell at a wider range of prices, and then we kind of stack all those on top of each other, similar to Uniswap. And then as someone trades through that range, it's a new take on an options AMM. So it's kind of difficult for me to say it without showing you. We do have that video out that I think Tolga does a really good job of explaining it. But yeah, so we take all those different LPs that are within different ranges, we stack them on top of each other, and then as it kind of trades within that tick range, the liquidity might be better. You can concentrate within a certain tick range. As an LP, you can choose to withdraw your liquidity at any time. And so what we do when we say withdraw your liquidity, you withdraw the free liquidity, but then you also withdraw any underwritten positions. So you're free to then close those underwritten positions if you want to. You can hold them to expiration, whatever you kind of want to do. You can start getting a little weird with it, and then build multi-leg strategies, and
And how does the pricing work? Like if I'm an LP and I'm adding liquidity, how do I know that the volatility pricing is going to be correct for the people that are buying them?
Yeah, good question. So we abstracted out so what made V2 special was that we took the IVOL surface, we brought it on chain, and then we used that in our pricing mechanism, which is a modified Black-Scholes model. In V3, we abstracted those out as actually two different layers. So if you want full control over how you price that option, you can do that within the ranges. If you want to leave it to Premia to price that option for you, similar to a V2 experience, we have these vaults that we continue to bring. It's essentially the V2 product stacked on top of our base layer, where we take in the IVOL surface, we'll price them for you. Let's say that vault is only going to buy, sell calls within a 30-day time range within a certain delta. And so it has like a strategy that it follows, and it will be a liquidity source if any traders come in and try to buy from there. So yeah.
So back it up just a little bit on the pricing, like how that actually works with those vaults and the V2 pricing, because I know some of you are familiar with it. You've been following along Premia for a while, but for the listeners, the C-level mechanic that he's talking about that works with that modified Black-Scholes algorithm is very similar to what Uniswap does with their supply and demand curve. It's like an X times Y equals K. So that's what he means by Premia price those options, because it's actually the users, the supply and demand of that specific pool that will price those options, or of that asset that will price those options.
Okay. And does it work more like I'm guessing it works more like a Uniswap pool where arbitrageurs will bring the pricing back in line if the volatility pricing goes off, or it becomes dislocated from what you could find somewhere else, right? If it becomes an arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I envision that there'll be arbitrage opportunities between us and other DeFi products. if, for example, we're selling at a higher price and you can buy it cheaper at Lyra and then just pare down those trades and just, collect the premium, collect the difference there. One thing that's really cool about V3 that we have not gone into yet is not only do we have an SDK, so, you can kind of integrate with, as a developer, you can easily integrate all of the different mechanisms, our order book, our quotes, pulling our quotes from our site, also then routing orders. And then we also have RFQ, right? So RFQ is a system in which that if someone comes in and they want to buy a certain option, we'll kind of relay that as an event to anyone who subscribes to those messages. And so if you're plugged into that and you're like a market maker, you can give a real-time price back, and then that will stream into the UI of that user buying that. So they might come in with a better price. And with that, you can then arb that between, let's say, like a centralized exchange, if you're a market maker, between Deribit and that, because that Deribit is selling for this, you can sell it to this individual for this, and I can just pare down those trades and hit both of those programmatically.
That's really
right
cool.
now, there's a really cool site called straddle.xyz. Not a partner of ours yet or anything, but love them. They show those arbitrage deals right now between Premia, Lyra, Bybit, Deribit, and I believe there's one or two others that they've added now. But you can see those in real time, even currently on our V2 platform, and I think that'll just become even more fruitful with V3.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm looking at Straddle right now. That's pretty awesome, actually, that you can have all these arbitrage opportunities.
Yeah, I think as the market gets a little bit more mature, and people get more comfortable with some of the DeFi options protocol, like the fact that because all these different DeFi options protocols, we're constantly pushing out updates and stuff, and as we get a little bit more experience under our belt, but as people get more safe with the smart contract risk, I think that you'll see those arbitrage opportunities start to slim down.
So I just I want to ask a question about the like transaction fees, right? So like one of the issues that we've seen from Uniswap is that the what is it called? It's like LVR. So like the cost of leaving your assets in the Uniswap position is usually not covered by what you would typically find on like market making on an exchange, because the fees are not dynamically adjusted, and there's just price like mispricing of that LP, right? So like how would the fees and the like the pricing, like is the pricing going to match what you would find on like a centralized exchange? Will LPs have those issues like leaving their assets there? Or let me think about how I can ask this question a little bit better.
To reframe your question, it's just like how will Premia compare to like both the pricing
on Deribit or Bybit, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think there will be competing pricing, right? Like you're seeing more and more interest in DeFi options, and as liquidity swells within DeFi options, you'll be able to perform similar trades. And with an RFQ network, you're giving market makers a very similar experience to what they have on like Trade Paradigm right now, interacting with options in the way that they do. So bringing something like that on chain and having competing pricing, because we talked about arbitrage opportunities and like pricing disparity that will exist, but there will be competition for the best pricing on the exchange itself, because you have these three different areas in which are competing to sell the options, right? Like you have the vault layer that's acting for people. You have the base layer where market makers or individuals can come and they can choose the ranges in which they want to provide liquidity and underwrite options in. And then you have the RFQ network where you're going to have people submitting orders that they would like filled. And it's going to be to their advantage to obviously give the best price available, because they want their orders filled as quickly as possible. You don't want to have just stale orders sitting on a market. So I think that just as more attention comes to DeFi options and more users come, that the liquidity will be there, and that we will then have this pricing that can compete with the centralized exchanges.
Yeah,
because the tools will all be there.
I think over the next year, we'll see a lot of convergence between the centralized and decentralized exchanges, with the ability to programmatically plug into a lot of these decentralized order books, and then market makers being able to easily pare that down. It's going to become like extensions to what the centralized exchanges are, because it'll be just ridiculously easy to pare down those trades. Because right now they're a little off, but between Avo, us, Lyra, and Deribit, I think a lot of them will converge.
And so, like, what about the composability of these primitives that you're creating? Like, are they going to be available to be like widely used in other parts of DeFi, or do you think they'll just be kind of used within the Premia ecosystem?
Yeah, so the fact that our pools are permissionless and you bring your own Oracle, I think that you're going to see a lot of adoption with all these other groups that were either their token doesn't have, maybe they're startup groups, they don't have a lot of liquidity, and thus there's higher risk tolerance if someone like us were to whitelist you for on our platform right now. We kind of get to remove that, right? So similar to Uniswap, anyone can deploy a pool. Similar with our platform in V3, anyone can deploy a pool, and then so you're going to see a lot more these smaller groups setting up their own options markets. And then on top of that, a lot of our componentry will be open sourcing, which is in the past we had taken a different approach. So front end components will be open sourcing. A lot of the vault components will be open sourcing, and all the vault is that if you bring in an eyeball surface, and we can, where we'll be showcasing like how do we do that, how we get that data, how do we do it with an image from market that's not like Deribit supported Bitcoin and ETH, right? So let's say it's something that's not on Deribit, so it's a little bit difficult to put together the eyeball service, but we'll be sharing like how someone can do that, how to bring that information on chain, and then how can you price those options for your community. So I think of the open source nature of that will make it a lot easier. We want to demystify a lot of it because we had been using it as like a proprietary in our V2 model, and now that I think that we've matured a little bit, we can start making that more available to people.
Yeah, once the SDK is available, we've already had some talks at conferences that we've been to over the past year with different groups building in specifically like the structured product space. And there's been a lot of interest in building on top of V3, given that SDK kind of said like the granularity of how you can design the product atop of the base layer, as well as just the availability of deploying your own assets, or maybe you have an Oracle feed provider that you prefer, like Redstone. They're a new one that a lot of people are using. Maybe you want to use them. There will be adapters for that. So it's truly kind of up to the protocol, like what they would like to do and how they want to do it. And it's open and available for them to plug in and build atop.
Yeah, we want to move into more of like an infrastructure provider than a market maker, which is kind of like what we had been in a little bit in the past. As far as I know, we're going to be the only on-chain order book for options. So the way that we do that is we actually are using Arbitrum Nova. So every time that you submit an order, you can submit it through SDK. We'll package that up nicely. We emit it as an event on Arbitrum Nova, and then anyone can take those, index them, look at them. We kind of use it as most of the other RFQ type order books are usually in the cloud somewhere, and they're not very transparent. So we're taking that, we're emitting them on Arbitrum Nova. We then index them, in which you can use us, or you can build your own indexer. We then index them and then bring them onto the front end. So then you can see all the different orders that exist. We're not, there's no front running, and there's nothing there for us to front run. Everyone can see it, everyone can tap into it, and then you can build upon it as well.
Can you talk? Go ahead.
Sure. I want to ask something a bit different. Like, what's your strategy about how to make the whole option, thing simpler for user? Like, how do you attract users who are not already extremely sophisticated and know how this kind of stuff works, or is it not really the audience that you're even going for? What's your strategy on that aspect?
We're happy you asked. Can we announce the date, DK?
What, Friday?
This is what we want.
Is it Friday?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
I think.
All right.
I think what you're asking.
So Friday in 2 days, we'll be releasing an Options Academy. And it will do exactly kind of what you're saying. Like, we want to demystify options. I think a lot of the hesitance with people getting involved with options is that perps are stupid simple. There's a slider, you say how much leverage you want, you add some collateral, and boom, like, you can be a degenerate. But with options, I think people get intimidated by the language that's used a lot of times when they start looking into it, or they start getting involved in or kind of lurking in option communities. You start talking about implied volatility and theta and gamma, and people get really intimidated. Like, I have no idea what that is. I don't know how to trade that, so I'm just going to stay away. So we started with just user experience. With V2, I don't want to toot our own horn, but I think we've done a pretty good job with UX and making it easy for people to navigate around and have the tools they need so that they don't need to leave the site. Like, we integrated a swap so that people can swap and bridge from any of the networks that we support. And even the ones we don't support, you can use the bridge to swap to. We made it so you can do it in one transaction so that you're going from one bridge to another and you need a different asset. You can bridge and swap in the same transaction. And you don't have to leave Premia, so there's no risk of you like getting fished by going to try to find some new bridge that has liquidity. We made it so that you can use any asset and deposit into all the pools. So on the back end, if you have Shiba and you want to get into the ETH call pool, you don't have to go and use the swap. You can just deposit the Shiba. It will swap it on the back end and deposit for you. So we tried to make it really simple for people to use once they have a general understanding of options. Now we're taking a step back. We're releasing an academy that will have a slew of courses, exams, a glossary, strategies, things like that, so that are interested but have no idea, what options are, the terminology people are using. They can kind of have a step-by-step guide through learning before they come onto the platform and start, using any real money of theirs.
Will that have a simulator, or like, are you guys planning on going down that route of? I really wish even Robinhood and some of those platforms where a lot of the degens go could kind of try it out, or at least play around with it a bit before they go full in with actual capital. I think we all see how some of the Wall Street bet stuff ends up, but just curious if you guys plan on going down that route to kind of teach users or.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a testnet available. Even right now on Gorelli, people could use Premia on Gorelli and just play around with it. But go ahead, DK.
We're leaning into this heavy with our trading competition, which begins the week of the 12th, right? So it's a testnet trading competition. You come in, you complete an academy course that kind of gives you a showcase of all the features in V3, and then we mint some testnet tokens for you, and then we have going to have over 150K in prizes, and they're anything from video game Diablo keys to Nansen subscriptions to cash prizes as well, right? So it's one way for us to kind of test out the new features, but then also for you to have a risk-free way to kind of learn about options. One thing that we did encounter was V3 not at launch, but closer to the end of the summer, we'll have margin, right? So margin being a product that definitely needs responsible and educated users before they use it. We're like, how can we do this? How can we force users to essentially feature gate this behind a financial literacy test? And that's what kind of led into the academy, which is kind of led to how can we expand upon this academy? Okay, let's get some testnet stuff up. Let's just do a full testnet trading competition so everyone can do it risk-free and not have to put any capital at risk. And then it's kind of just snowballed into this thing the last few months until what we're happy to. We're only 2 weeks away from kicking off.
Awesome.
Sounds great, actually.
Hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to come back and share some of your product demos on the timeline once you're all ready, and we're happy to share that video link that you're talking about with everyone in the in Telegram and everything else once once we finish
Absolutely.
here. Yeah. So DK3 Anon and V Cozy, thank you for coming on. That was great to hear about what's coming for Premia V3. Really excited for that, and we'll be looking forward to seeing its release.
Appreciate the time, guys.
For sure.
Yeah,
great
yeah.
day.
Really appreciate having us on.
Thank you.